The Predator's mistake. The invitation that changed everything. The holographic message flickered to life in the Galactic Council chamber, and I knew immediately that something was wrong. I am Ambassador Thela of the Corvin hierarchy, and in my 60 years of diplomatic service, I had learned to read the subtle signs of danger. This message carried all of them. Humanity has been selected, the council chairman announced, his crystalline voice echoing through the chamber. They will participate in the Great Hunt. Silence fell across the assembly. The Great Hunt was an ancient tradition among the galaxy's apex predator species. A test of dominance, survival instinct, and killing prowess. Every century, one species was chosen to prove themselves worthy of respect among the true hunters of the galaxy. And they had chosen humanity. Hashtag the prey species. I looked at the human ambassador, James Torres, sitting quietly in the diplomatic section. He was unremarkable by galactic standards. Small, soft-skinned, no natural weapons, no armor plating, no venomous glands. Humans were classified as a Class 7 species in the Predator Index, which was a polite way of saying they were prey. The Vexorians, who had issued the challenge, were Class 2 predators. 8 feet of muscle razor claws, enhanced sensory organs that could detect a heartbeat from a kilometer away, and a hunting culture that stretched back millions of years. They had never lost a Great Hunt challenge. This is a mistake, I whispered to my assistant Rella. Humans are not prepared for this. Rella's tentacles twitched nervously. The Vexorians know this. That is why they chose them. They want to humiliate humanity, to prove that soft species have no place in galactic leadership. She was right. Humanity had been making waves in the Council, proposing reforms, challenging old hierarchies, advocating for prey species rights. The predator species had tolerated this because humans seemed harmless. Now they wanted to put humans in their place, publicly and brutally. Hashtag the human response. Ambassador Torres requested to speak. The chairman granted permission with barely concealed amusement. We accept the challenge, Torres said simply. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Even I was surprised. Surely humans understood what they were agreeing to? The Great Hunt had no rules beyond survival. Contestants were dropped on a hostile world and hunted for 7 days. Most prey species lasted hours before being killed. The few who survived did so by hiding, not fighting. You understand the terms? The Vexorian champion, Kralax, growled from a section. His fangs gleamed as he spoke. No weapons beyond what you can craft from nature. No technology. No rescue. 7 days of being hunted by the finest predators in the galaxy. We understand, Torres replied calmly. When do we begin? Hashtag preparing for the hunt. 3 weeks later, I visited the human embassy. I had to try to talk them out of this suicide mission. I found Torres in a training facility, watching a group of humans prepare. Ambassador, please reconsider, I said. This is not a matter of courage. The Vexorians are biologically engineered for killing. You cannot win. Torres smiled. Ambassador Thela, may I show you something? He led me to a display screen showing Earth's evolutionary history. Our planet, Earth, is what you classify as a death world. Extreme temperature variations, volatile weather systems, numerous apex predators, and toxic plant life. Humans evolved in one of the most hostile environments in known space. Yes, I said carefully. That is why we all admire human resilience. But resilience is not the same as predatory capability, isn't it? Torres pulled up another image. This is a persistence hunt. Before we developed agriculture, early humans would chase prey animals for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We couldn't outrun them in a sprint, so we just kept going and going until they died. I stared at the image. That seems inefficient. It was terrifying, Torres corrected. Imagine being a fast, powerful animal, and this weak, slow creature just keeps coming. You run, it follows. You hide, it finds you. You rest, it catches up. You can't escape because it literally will not stop. Ever. Hashtag the selection. Who will represent humanity? I asked, changing the subject. Torres gestured to the training area. We're sending a team of 6. The Vexorians can bring 12 per tradition. We wanted to make it fair. I met the human team over the following days. There was Dr. Sarah Chun, a biologist who had spent years studying predatory species. Marcus Webb, a former survival instructor who had trained soldiers in extreme environments. Elena Rodriguez, a tracker who could identify animal patterns from minimal evidence. David Kim, a medic with extensive field experience. James Foster, an anthropologist who studied ancient human hunting techniques. And Maya Okonkwo, a materials engineer who could construct tools from virtually anything. They look so small, Rella whispered to me after the introduction. Yes, I agreed, but I had noticed something else. Their eyes. When predators looked at prey, there was a certain hunger, a calculation. When prey looked at predators, there was fear. When these humans looked at images of the Vexorians, there was something different. They were analyzing, planning, already hunting. Hashtag the drop. The hunting world was designated Planet Kresh 7, a jungle environment with dense vegetation, numerous water sources, and naturally occurring predators. Perfect Vexorian hunting ground. They had won 4 previous challenges on similar worlds. The dropships released both teams on opposite sides of a vast continent. The Vexorians immediately began tracking, their superior senses picking up scent trails and heat signatures. They expected to locate the humans within hours and end the hunt quickly. I monitored the situation from the orbital observation station, along with representatives from dozens of species. The Vexorians had allowed full sensor coverage, confident in their inevitable victory. The humans are not moving, Rella noted, watching the tracking display. They should be running, hiding. But the humans were not hiding. They had claimed a defensible position near a river and were constructing something. Hashtag the first day. The Vexorian hunting party moved with practiced efficiency. Kralax led them, following what he assumed was a human trail. They found the campsite quickly, approaching with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. The trap was elegant in its simplicity. Sharpened stakes concealed in the undergrowth, positioned at angles that would catch charging attackers. Weighted nets suspended in the trees, ready to drop on anyone passing underneath. And most impressive, a deadfall system that used local materials to create a crushing weight trap. 2 Vexorians were injured before they retreated. Not killed, but wounded enough to slow them down. Kralax stared at the trap system with something approaching respect. They are smarter than expected, he growled. No matter. We adapt. But that night, one of the Vexorian sentries disappeared. The others found him the next morning, unconscious but alive, bound with plant fiber and stripped of his equipment. A message was carved into the tree, beside him in crude but readable galactic standard. 7 days. We're just getting started. Hashtag the psychology of the hunt. I don't understand, the Sotharian observer said, watching the monitors. Humans are prey species. They should be terrified, desperate. Instead, they are aggressive. I was beginning to understand, though, they are not acting like prey because they do not think of themselves as prey. Look at their behavior. The humans had split into 2 teams. One maintained the camp, improved defenses, and created more tools. The other actively tracked the Vexorians, studying their patterns, learning their habits. They were not being hunted. They were hunting. On the 3rd day, another Vexorian was found unconscious. Then another. The Vexorians were becoming frustrated, their confidence shaken. They were supposed to be the hunters, the apex predators, the unstoppable force. But somehow, the weak, soft humans were turning the tables. Hashtag the trap. By the 5th day, Kralax understood the trap he had walked into. The humans had never intended to run or hide. From the beginning, they had planned to hunt the hunters. Every confrontation, every lucky escape, every apparent mistake had been designed to gather information, to learn Vexorian weaknesses, to prepare for a final confrontation. They are persistence hunters, I explained to the council observers. They do not need to be faster or stronger. They just need to be smarter and more patient. They were down their opponents through constant pressure, through psychological warfare, through making their prey feel hunted instead of being the hunter. The Vexorians had been lured into human territory, into an area the humans had spent days preparing. Traps within traps, fallback positions, ambush points. The humans had turned the jungle into their weapon. Hashtag the final day. On the seventh day, Kralax and his remaining hunters were exhausted, demoralized, and scattered. Half their team was unconscious in various locations, carefully subdued but not killed. The humans had proven they could have killed them at any time, but chose not to. That was perhaps the most frightening realization. When the extraction ships arrived, they found the humans waiting calmly at the designated pickup point. Behind them, arranged in a neat line, were the Vexorian hunters, all alive, all defeated, all forced to confront the reality that they were not the apex predators they believed themselves to be. Kralax approached Ambassador Torres, his posture showing a respect I had never seen him display to a prey species. "How?" he asked simply. Torres smiled. "You assume because we look like prey that we think like prey. But on Earth, humans are the apex predator. Not because we are the strongest or fastest, but because we are the smartest. We hunt with our minds. We plan, we adapt, we use psychology and tools and persistence. You were hunting humans thinking they were prey animals. We were hunting you knowing exactly what you were." Hashtag part 2, the new order. Hashtag the aftermath. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as the footage played. 7 days of humans systematically dismantling the Vexorian hunting party, not through brute force, but through intelligence, strategy, and an understanding of predatory psychology that was frankly disturbing. "This changes everything," the chairman said quietly. He was right. For thousands of years, galactic society had been organized by the Predator Index. Species were ranked by their hunting capabilities, their natural weapons, their killing efficiency. The strong ruled because they could dominate the weak. That was a natural order. Humans had just proven that the natural order was based on a flawed assumption. Hashtag reclassification. The Predator Index must be revised. I announced during the emergency session. Humanity has demonstrated apex predator capabilities despite lacking traditional predatory features. Their hunting methodology, psychological warfare capacity, and strategic intelligence classify them as a Class 1 species. The predator species erupted in protest. Class 1 was reserved for the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy. Species with enhanced killing abilities, superior physical advantages, millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Humans had none of that. They were just clever. Exactly. Ambassador Torres said when given the floor, "We are just clever." But that is enough. Earth's history is full of species that looked dangerous but went extinct, and species that looked weak but survived. Intelligence matters more than claws. Strategy matters more than strength. Persistence matters more than speed. Hashtag the Great Hunt reforms. Kralax himself spoke in support of humanity's reclassification. "I have hunted on 50 worlds," he said, his voice carrying unusual humility. "I have faced creatures that could tear me apart, that were faster, stronger, more heavily armed than I am. But I have never felt hunted until I faced humans. They turned our greatest strengths into vulnerabilities. Our confidence became arrogance. Our tracking skills led us into traps. Our superior senses made us predictable." He looked directly at Torres. "Humans did not defeat us through luck. They defeated us through superiority in the only domain that truly matters, intelligence." The Great Hunt itself was reformed after that. No longer was it a simple predator versus prey demonstration. It became a test of strategic capability, requiring both physical prowess and tactical intelligence. The number of prey species volunteering for the challenge increased dramatically once it was clear that brains could defeat brawn. Hashtag the uncomfortable truth. But the most significant change was psychological. The predator species had to confront an uncomfortable reality. They were not at the top of the food chain because of their inherent superiority. They were there because they had never encountered a species that combined human-level intelligence with the willingness to hunt. Most intelligent species in the galaxy evolved as prey. Dr. Chen explained during a council lecture series that became mandatory viewing. They developed intelligence to avoid being eaten. Their first instinct when threatened is to hide or flee. Humans evolved as both prey and predator. We developed intelligence to hunt more effectively. When threatened, our instinct is to assess, adapt, and attack. That is the difference. She brought up data from Earth's history. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, outlasted multiple other human species. We competed with Neanderthals, who were stronger, Denisovans, who were more cold-adapted, Homo erectus, who had survived for nearly 2 million years. We outlasted them all not because we were physically superior, but because we were better at cooperation, planning, and innovation. Hashtag the persistence hunters. The concept that disturbed the galactic predators most was persistence hunting. The idea that early humans would simply follow prey animals for days until they collapsed from exhaustion seemed inefficient to species used to quick kills. It is psychologically devastating, Torres explained. Imagine being hunted by something that will not stop, cannot be escaped, and will track you for as long as necessary. Every species has a breaking point where exhaustion overcomes survival instinct. Humans learn to exploit that breaking point. Marcus Webb demonstrated human tracking capabilities. On Earth, indigenous hunters could track prey across deserts, through rivers, over mountains. They would read disturbed grass, broken twigs, scent in the air. They could determine the species, age, health status, and direction of travel from minimal evidence. And once they started tracking, they would not stop until prey was caught. Hashtag the toolmakers. Maya Okonkwo's presentation on human tool-making revolutionized galactic understanding of warfare. Predatory species develop natural weapons through evolution, she explained. Humans develop technology. We cannot produce venom, so we crafted poisons. We lack claws, so we created knives. We are not naturally armored, so we invented protective gear. Every biological limitation became an engineering challenge. She demonstrated how humans could create sophisticated tools from basic materials. Within hours, using only what was available in a standard forest environment, she constructed weapons, shelters, water purification systems, and communication devices. The Vexorians had evolved over millions of years to be perfect hunters. Humans had achieved the same effectiveness in a few thousand years through innovation. Hashtag the social hunters. Perhaps the most significant advantage humans demonstrated was pack hunting coordination. Most galactic predators were solitary hunters or operated in small family groups. Humans could coordinate hundreds or thousands of individuals toward a single goal. James Foster showed footage from the Great Hunt. Notice the human team never acted independently. Every decision was communicated. Every trap was coordinated. Every movement was part of a larger strategy. The 6 humans operated as a single organism with distributed intelligence. He compared it to historical human hunts. Early humans would coordinate entire tribes to drive large prey animals into killing zones. One group would make noise to frighten the animals. Another would position themselves at the escape routes. A third would deliver the killing blows. Individual humans are not terribly dangerous. Coordinated humans are unstoppable. Hashtag the ethical question. We need to address the obvious concern, the chairman said during a closed council session. If humans are apex predators with intelligence-based hunting capabilities, what prevents them from turning those capabilities on other sentient species? Torres had clearly anticipated this question. The same thing that prevents us from hunting each other to extinction: ethics. Yes, humans are capable of extreme violence. Our history is full of wars, conflicts, atrocities. But we also develop philosophy, moral codes, laws, and international cooperation. Being capable of something does not mean we will do it. He paused, letting that sink in. The Great Hunt was not about proving humans are violent. It was about proving humans are capable. We can protect ourselves. We can protect our allies. And we can defeat aggressors who assume weakness from appearance. That capability creates deterrence, which creates peace. Hashtag the new alliance. In the months following the Great Hunt, something unexpected happened. Prey species that had previously remained quiet in council sessions began speaking up, with humanity demonstrating that intelligence could overcome physical disadvantage. Other species found their courage. The Taurians, a prey species with exceptional analytical abilities, proposed new technological development initiatives. The Plenary, small but incredibly organized, offered logistical coordination services that revolutionized galactic commerce. The Metherians, prey species with advanced mathematical understanding, created economic models that benefited the entire galaxy. Humans did not just change their own position. I explained to Rella. They changed the entire paradigm. Prey species are no longer accepting subordinate roles because they finally see examples of intelligence overcoming physical advantage. #, the predator species adapt. To their credit, most predator species adapted to the new reality. The Vexorians became humanity's closest allies, learning from Torres and his team about strategic thinking and psychological warfare. Kralax personally requested to train with human military instructors. I thought I understood hunting, he told me during a diplomatic reception. I was wrong. I understood killing, which is only the final step of hunting. Humans understand the entire process: research, planning, preparation, execution, and extraction. They are complete hunters, not just strong killers. Some predator species resisted the change. The Draxians attempted their own great hunt challenge against humanity, confident they could succeed where the Vexorians had failed. They lasted 3 days before surrendering. The Corthanes tried economic warfare, attempting to isolate human trade. Within months, prey species had formed a trading coalition that excluded the Corthanes entirely. #, the warning. 6 months after the Great Hunt, Ambassador Torres gave a speech that would define human galactic relations for the next century. Humanity wants peace, he said. We want cooperation, mutual benefit, and shared prosperity. We will work with any species willing to treat us as equals. But let me be absolutely clear about what humanity is capable of. He brought up footage from human history. Wars, conflicts, technological achievements born from necessity. When threatened, when pushed, when forced to fight, humans become the most dangerous species you will ever encounter. Not because we are the strongest or the fastest, because we will not stop. We will adapt, innovate, and persist until we achieve our goals. We are persistence hunters, and what we hunt, we catch. The chamber was silent. Torres's expression softened. But we would rather build and destroy. We would rather create alliances than enemies. We would rather explore the unknown than fight over the known. That is the choice we offer: friendship or the discovery of what apex predators we can be. #, the new beginning. 1 year after the Great Hunt, the Galactic Council had fundamentally changed. The Predator Index was abolished, replaced with a capability assessment that measured intelligence, technology, organization, and physical abilities equally. Prey species held half the council seats. Economic power mattered as much as military strength. I stood with Ambassador Torres, watching the voting on a new charter that would guarantee rights for all species regardless of their evolutionary origin. Did you know it would turn out this way? I asked, when you accepted the Great Hunt Challenge? Torres smiled. We hoped. The galaxy needed to see that strength comes in many forms. Physical power is one form, but intelligence, determination, and cooperation are equally valuable. Humans were not trying to prove we are the apex predators. We were trying to prove that the concept of apex predators is flawed. And now we build a galaxy where every species contributes according to their strengths, where prey species are not subordinate to predators, where intelligence matters more than claws. He looked at the council chamber, where species that had once feared each other now work together. We hunt for a better future now. And humans are very good at catching what we hunt for. #, epilogue. The Great Hunt became an annual event, but its nature changed completely. Instead of predator versus prey, it became mixed team challenges testing various capabilities. Intelligence puzzles, physical endurance tests, technological innovation challenges, and cooperative exercises. Humans won some challenges, lost others, and seemed content either way. They had proven their point. The galaxy learned that appearance did not determine capability, that intelligence could overcome physical limitations, and that persistence was perhaps the most dangerous trait any species could possess. The Vexorians created a monument on their homeworld. It showed a human and a Vexorian standing side by side, with an inscription in both languages. True strength is understanding when not to fight. I visited Earth once, curious about the death world that had produced such remarkable hunters. What I found surprised me: a beautiful planet with incredible diversity. Dangerous, yes, but also full of life, art, culture, and wonder. This is what humans are protecting, Dr. Chen explained, showing me a rainforest. Not just ourselves, but this, the beauty, the possibility, the future. We hunt when we must, but we prefer to nurture. As I left Earth, I realized the galaxy had not gained apex predators. We had gained something far more valuable: partners who combined the capability to fight with the wisdom to choose peace. And perhaps that was the most frightening thing about humans. They were not just hunters. They were hunters who chose, most of the time, not to hunt. That choice, that restraint combined with capability, made them the most powerful species in the galaxy. End of story. Asterisk HFY Codex Archive Asterisk, where humanity's intelligence outthinks the universe.